Erik Maund is wealthy. His family lived in a 7,000 square foot home that was valued at about $5 million and had 10 bathrooms.
The family is a really nice family.
Anita Ashton belongs to the Austin Country Club, where Erik and his family have been members for years.
The men I know, that play golf with him.
So he's a hell of a lot of fun and very popular at the club.
Staff all loved him because he tipped with $100 bills.
For years, Maund had enjoyed the good life in Austin with his wife and 2 kids. But in early 2020, that all changes.
And that is a clip from 2020's Sealed with a Kill, airing Friday night. That's tonight on KVUE. It tells the story of Erik Charles Maund. He's the Austin man convicted last November in a murder-for-hire plot that left 2 people dead in Nashville. Bob Woodruff of ABC News hosts that episode, which features some of our own reporting from here at KVUE. He's joining us now to talk about this 2-hour special, again, airing tonight on KVUE. And Bob, I want to just start by asking you, first of all, thank you so much for your time to preview this 2-hour special for us. But I want to just start by asking you, as you investigated this case that generated a lot of headlines here in Austin, what stands out to you today about this murder-for-hire plot?
There's so many elements to that, Tony, as you know this case more than anybody else, that first of all, it's just such a, what looked like in the beginning, one of those types of murder cases where someone executed and then end up in a car, crashed on the side of the road. They first thought this was a murder-suicide. Turns out that was not. But the one's the most fascinating is the way that they made this link between what looked like a simple story to one that's much more complicated, that was not necessarily just something that happened just in Nashville, that drew them all the way down there to Austin as well, and that it involved 3 former military service people, 1 from Israel and 2 more from the Marines. So those are the ones that were ultimately convicted for murder for hire.
You know, Bob, the coverage of the trial itself, because it happened in Nashville, it happened in federal court. For people who may not know, cameras almost never are allowed in federal court. So there wasn't a lot of footage from inside the courtroom. And so this is going to really mark the first time that the public is going to be able to see so much of the evidence, the weight of the evidence against the defendant, including Erik Maund. Were you struck by the level of detail, the level of evidence that prosecutors brought forward?
This was almost 4 years since this murder happened. The car was found on the side of the road. This took about 2 years. 2 weeks that it took in terms for the prosecutors to win this case. But yeah, I think sometimes we're always shocked by many of the elements that are found, during the trial. I think many didn't even know exactly that this was happening. This was kept completely secret. The investigation from the prosecutors, by the police, by the FBI, was kept completely quiet. So even family members that were ultimately tied in together with us, they didn't know this was happening at all, really largely until the trial began. So there's brand new elements to the story that nobody really saw coming. And then ultimately, there was a lot of doubt that there would be actual, murder for hire convictions in this, that there would be many that were actually were innocent. But I think it was a completely win for the prosecutors that I don't think they completely expected either.
And one of the signature pieces of evidence I know against Erik Maund is a phone call between he and one of the co-defendants that was recorded soon before Erik Maund's arrest. Can you just talk about that some?
Yeah, initially this was really apparently that Erik Maund was using one of whom, Gil Paulette, who worked there in his car dealership place, used him essentially to try to find others to do a surveillance, to track down why it is that Bill Lanway, who was the man that was found dead in the car with what was then his former girlfriend, Holly Williams, realized that he was actually engaging in extortion to try to get money out of Erik Maund in order to keep this secret quiet, which is that he was apparently one of the clients for her in her business as an escort. You know, she was a wonderful woman. Didn't know any of this that was going on. She was innocent in this case. But because she was an escort, it was discovered that one of her clients that engaged with her twice, at least going through to Nashville, that it was him that was now tied together with Bill Lanway, who was also killed because he was trying to escort money from him. So this was, to extort money from him. So that's the one that ultimately, put this all together.
Bob, I know that we are going to learn a lot about the victims themselves, and that one of the things that this episode really seeks to do is to humanize them, but also in many ways sort of memorialize them. Can you just talk to us about those two victims?
Yeah, you've got two victims. It's a complicated relationship they had too. Holly Williams is a wonderful woman. Yes, she did ultimately try to make some money, was engaged as an escort. Bill Lanway, who was her former boyfriend, they had a relationship that went back all the way to high school. And they were close together for a long time, but then there were essentially accusations against him being abusive of her. In fact, there was a thought that, essentially her dog was killed, and they thought maybe that was Bill Lanway. So in the beginning of this case, when it looked like perhaps it was a murder-suicide, that he was the one who actually killed her. And that was the murder case. But then because of what happened in their relationship, then later than that, they realized this was an extortion case. So that's why he was killed as well. But poor Holly, she'd gone through many things because of Bill. But Bill Lanway as well, the other victim, is he has a very complicated background. His father actually killed his mother, Bill's mother, when he was a little kid. So he got away from us. Then he went to prison for us. He grew up that way. And he also lost his little daughter, who was only 5 years old, who died of cancer. So he had a very complicated, twisted kind of life himself before this happened. So that's another part of this story that it's pretty emotional, for anybody that watches it.
A tragedy all the way around. And just a final question. I know that Erik Maund's name is obviously very big. His family name is very big in Austin. He comes from a wealthy family. What are sort of the takeaways that the audience is going to be left with about him specifically?
There's a lot of details about Erik Maund and what his life was. He's not the family member who started this, who was his grandfather years before. So it's something about the third generation in terms of in ownership of these kinds of companies, that somebody becomes wealthy not necessarily just because of their own American dream. I think that's probably one people should know. But I think everybody's always shocked by this. Erik Maund's relationship with his wife was actually coming to an end as well. So you see this mixture between emotion and conflict and crises that are going through someone's minds, that decisions like this can be made that you just would never imagine. Everybody that knew Erik Maund, as far as we know, could never have ever imagined that this would be a man that would be turned into a murder for hire. So I think this is a family that has shocked the city of Austin. A lot of people know who he is. Most everybody knows what this dealership is. And whoever imagines that somebody who's got a life like that would end up needing to kill somebody or order the killing of someone else. And I think that's one all of us take away from this that's kind of shocking.
Well, it is a gripping story, as we know, but ultimately a tragic one with many new details and interviews and evidence against the defendants in this case, including Maund, being aired tonight in this 2020 special. Bob Woodruff from ABC, thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Tony, thanks so much, and thanks for participating in all this with us. You have more knowledge about it than anybody.
Thank you.